It's Christmas time, and a lot of people are wondering how to cope with the horrible attack that happened last week in Connecticut. Many people are understandably confused, angry, and upset over what happened. Some are infuriated when they think and take a look at the situation and think that the shooter hurt so many lives and so many families, and then he killed himself to ultimately suffer no punishment for his crimes. I think it further exacerbates the situation when we think that perhaps this man was just mentally unstable and somehow not accountable for the things that he did. I think it helps to understand the nature of people. There are basically three views about people. Number one, people are naturally good. Number two, people are basically neutral. And then number three, people are evil. It may be a surprise to you that many of the liberal-leaning people see that people are in general good. They believe that deep down just about everybody wants to do good, and if given the proper amount of care and nurturing, they'll turn out to be good, decent citizens. Then you have probably the bulk of society that believes that people are generally neutral. Many of these people think that if you raise someone right, that kid will turn out to be good. And if you abuse the kid, well, he'll turn out to be evil. To them, people are kind of a tabula rasa, a blank slate that can become anything. Many of the founders of the United States held this view, and they believed that if you were given a just and fertile soil, the people would flourish and become strong, upstanding citizens. And then there's this other view, that people are naturally evil. This view began with the Jews many years before Christ, and it's recorded in the book of Genesis, when God looked down on the earth and he saw that the thoughts of men were evil continually. This view is also the predominant view of Christians. And I think it helps to show just how diametrically opposed the religious right is with the liberal left. I firmly believe that people have a natural bent towards evil. We see it every day. Education, training, and discipline, and the fear of punishment help us to lean towards a good path. But when we weaken the punishment, neglect to train and discipline, and destroy our education system, we as humans revert back to our natural state, evil. We see this all the time, and this year alone, the shootings that have happened attest to this. For those who believe neutrality is the answer, we know that a good upbringing isn't the answer, because we can always point to people like Jeffrey Dahmer, who had great homes growing up, and yet they turned out to do incredible wickedness and evil. And yet at the same time, we can point to other people who went through incredibly difficult circumstances, which rose above their situation to accomplish great good for the world. The other thing is we allow our kids nowadays to feed and meditate on movies, music, and games that glorify evil and killing, and then we're surprised when they go out and kill people. Because we think the people are, either neutral or they're good. And a lot of times we kind of lean towards that people are good side. And then when the kids go out and do these things, we say, well, there must be something to blame. So we blame the video games and we blame the movies, But what we're doing is we're training up a generation of cold-blooded killers, and we don't even realize it. But this is Christmas. And in the hustle and bustle of buying things for ourselves, we often neglect to ponder the meaning. Sure, a lot of us say things like, Jesus is the reason for the season, or keep Christ in Christmas. But we don't take the time to consider where our world would be without the redemption that Christmas represents. You see, people who understand that people are naturally evil, they understand that we need some type of redemption. Most religions of the world teach that we must perform some type of sacrifice in order to achieve redemption. The Jews were probably the first ones to come up with the idea that only God can offer redemption to us. And they came up with the concept of a Day of Atonement. Really, I believe God gave them this idea of the Day of Atonement. The purpose of it is that no matter how hard you tried throughout the year to be good and decent, you inevitably fail. So one day a year, you would appeal to God to forgive your sins, and you would offer up a sacrifice that He had previously told them was pleasing to Him, that He would accept on this Day of Atonement to forgive their sins. Now, Christianity takes this one step further, and they say that God actually came down in the flesh. He lived a perfect life as an example for us, and then He offered that life up as the ultimate continual sacrifice for our sins. It's not about being good. It's not about checking off some list of all the things that make us good. It's about accepting the fact that no matter what we do, we are evil. And only God can lift us out of this pit of slime and filth that we're born into. Christianity also taught a new principle, and that's called sanctification. Where once we've been cleaned, God gives us Himself inside of us, a little spark of life that begins to go to war against our evil nature, ultimately conquering it and making us fit for His kingdom. That's what the Christmas carol, Away in a Manger, means in the last verse when it says, fit us for heaven to live with you there. Sanctification outfits us to exist with a pure and holy God. Our very conscience and nature cries out to us that we all fall short. Some might think, well, I do bad things, but I'm not evil. Sure you are. Most of us never really accomplish the greater evils because we were raised better than that. But we've all gossiped. We've all lied or cheated or allowed bitterness or hatred to grow in our hearts, or lusted after somebody we shouldn't have. Those who have less inhibitions may graduate to cheating on their spouses or embezzling a little bit of money or developing a roaring addiction to something. But then you have the notorious sinners, the Jesse Jameses and the Hitlers of the world, who accomplish mass fear and notoriety for their heinous acts far beyond anything that we can even imagine. Most of us never have that kind of power. And we never graduate beyond a hidden loathing. Just a quiet evil that sometimes we lie to ourselves and actually call it by the title of goodness. But we are not good. And Christmas actually begins with that fact. But it ends with the hope that we can be made good by Christ.